This is not really Darth Vader's story. It is the confession of a clone trooper, a soldier once known only as CT-5539. But later, he chose a name, Hock Malsuum. And long after the Empire erased the truth, Hock wrote it down. Not because history would remember him, but because someone had to remember what Darth Vader did. This is Star Wars, Darth Vader, and the Cry of Shadows. During the Clone Wars, Hock fought beside Jedi. He respected them, but he never worshipped them, because he saw the truth. Jedi made mistakes. Jedi bled, Jedi died. Their ancient power did not make them invincible. And to Hock, courage did not belong only to people with lightsabers. A normal soldier could be fearless too. That belief mattered, because Hock was created to believe he was replaceable. A clone, a number, useful, disposable. He had no family, no childhood, no future, only war. And for a long time, that was enough. Then the war left him behind. Hock was abandoned in the Malsuum Expanse, a brutal desert wasteland. 8 sunsets passed after the Jedi left him there. He was wounded, dehydrated, dying. Predators circled him, but in that moment, he refused to die. He had been created on Kamino, programmed by others, numbered by others, ordered by others, but alone in the desert, he chose to live. That was where CT-5539 died, and Hock was born. Later, he took the name Malsuum from the desert itself, because he believed he had been conceived on Kamino, but born in that wasteland. For the first time, he was not just another clone, he was himself. For years, Hock tried to leave war behind. He worked on a farm, stopped firing blasters, tried to become something other than a soldier. But peace did not fit him. Clones were not made for solitude. They were made to fight beside others, to follow orders, to serve a purpose. Then Hock began hearing stories. Stories about a warrior in black armor, a servant of the new empire, a man enemies whispered about like a curse, Darth Vader. At first, Hock dismissed the stories, but the more he heard, the more Vader became something he could believe in. Vader was decisive, terrifying, unstoppable, everything the Jedi had failed to be. To Hock, Vader was not evil. He was order, strength, purpose. So when Hock returned to civilization and saw Imperial banners flying, he chose the Empire, he chose Vader, and that choice led him to Ostor. Ostor was a barren outer rim world, filled with red soil, deep canyons, and wind-carved stone. A Separatist civilization had taken root there, beyond the Emperor's control, so Vader was sent to break it. Hock served under him as a commander, and at first, the battle looked simple. Imperial forces advanced. The defenders fell back. Victory seemed certain. But Hock noticed something wrong. The enemy banner remained raised, even while they retreated, even while they died. That was not panic, that was purpose. Hock realized it was a trap. He tried to stop the advance, but General Roan ignored him. Roan saw numbers. Hock saw war, and when Hock resisted, Roan ordered him arrested. Then the trap closed. Hidden Separatist forces emerged from both sides of the canyon. The Imperial army was surrounded, surprised, slaughtered. In less than 15 minutes, the battlefield became a disaster. Roan survived, but not for long. Hock killed him, and when Vader demanded answers, Hock lied. He blamed Roan for disobeying orders, and because Roan was dead, no one could contradict him. Palpatine accepted the explanation, but he was not pleased. He told Vader that next time, he expected a more personal approach. Hock did not know why Vader spared him. Maybe Vader protected him. Maybe Vader simply found him useful. because instead of killing him, Vader gave him a new role. He wanted Hock on his wing. The next attack was larger, more brutal, and Hock saw Vader fly. He would later say Vader was the greatest pilot he had ever seen. But during the battle, enemy fighters arrived. They were not from Ostor. Someone had come to help. One pilot stood out, fast, precise, aggressive. He shot Hock down. And when Hock woke up inside the city, he was not tortured. He was not executed. He was cared for. The people of Ostor gave him water, clothes, shelter. There were no gods, because everyone who could fight was outside defending their home. Hock was in enemy hands, and the enemy showed him humanity. That was when his certainty began to crack. The leaders of Ostor were not monsters. They were not fanatics. They were citizens, builders, thinkers. They knew they could not truly defeat the Empire. Not that day, maybe not ever. But they wanted to stand long enough to inspire others. Hock argued for the Empire. He told them unity would bring peace, security, hope, but they rejected him because they already had those things. They had peace, they had security, they had hope, but they also had liberty, law, democracy, compassion. The Empire offered peace by removing freedom. Ostor had built peace with freedom, and Hock could not accept that. So he escaped and tried to destroy the city's hope. But one symbol remained: Kadak. Kadak was another clone, one of the only others Hock had ever known, who gave himself a name. But where Hock chose Vader, Kadak chose rebellion. To the people of Ostor, Kadak was more than a soldier. He was proof that someone born into obedience could still choose freedom. When Hock met Kadak, he did not look like the monster he expected him to be. He just looked like any other clone. And yet, Hock fought him, clone against clone, survivor against survivor, one fighting for the Empire, one fighting against it. Hock believed that if he killed Kadak, the people would break. But when Kadak fell, the people kept fighting, because killing the symbol did not kill the cause. Then Vader entered the city. Ostor burned around him. Streets turned to rubble, civilians broken, leaders dead. And Hock saw what Vader really was. Not order, not justice, not strength worth admiring. A machine, a weapon, a thing that crushed anyone who refused to kneel. Standing beside Vader, Hock ordered the survivors to surrender. Their leaders were dead. Their city had fallen. Their new lord stood before them. But the people of Ostor did not kneel. The wounded stood. The crippled stood. The broken stood. They knew what Vader was. They knew what would happen. And they stood anyway. Vader told them to follow their leaders into oblivion. Then he began slaughtering them. And that was when Hock finally broke. He shouted for Vader to stop, because at last he understood. These people were not fighting for chaos. They were not fighting because they loved war. They were fighting to live in peace, on their own terms. Everything Hock believed about Vader collapsed. After Ostor, Hock survived, but his faith in the Empire did not, so he wrote everything down. A confession, a memorial, a record of the people Imperial history erased. The soldiers, the civilians, the rebels, the clones. The broken survivors whose stories were never supposed to be told. But in the end, Hock burned his confession, maybe out of fear, maybe out of trauma, maybe because he wanted to protect the life he had built. The Empire erased history through violence. Hock erased his own truth through silence. And that is the real cry of shadows. The sound of everyone history forgets. The clones created to fight, then discarded. The civilians who stood for freedom, then vanished. The soldiers whose names never mattered. Darth Vader survived. The Empire survived. History moved on, and the shadows were left to cry alone. This story is not about Darth Vader winning a battle. Vader wins battles all the time. It is about what happens to the people who believe in him, until they finally see what he really is. Hock thought Vader was order, but on Ostor, he learned the truth. Vader was not there to save anyone. He was there to make sure no one ever stood again. And this is only one piece of the darker story of Vader's early years. Because in Ghost Prison, Vader doesn't just fight the enemies of the Empire. He turns the galaxy's worst criminals into his own army. And in The Ninth Assassin, Vader is given a chance to kill Palpatine, a chance to break his chains, a chance to become something more. But Vader's story is not the only tragedy shaped by the Sith. Darth Maul was also created to be a weapon. And every time Maul tried to escape that shadow, he only discovered how deep Sidious's control truly went. Vader and Maul were not the same, but both were shaped by the same darkness. So to continue the story, watch my other videos on Darth Vader and Darth Maul. And you can also check my channel for my videos on Dawn of the Jedi and Tales of the Jedi, which uncover the lost history of the Jedi and Sith. Because the most important Star Wars stories were never shown on screen. Until next time, may the Force be with you.